more exclusive Naruto Lemon videos coming out on my Boosty. You can support me by subscribing. Link in description. Description: to avoid unnecessary parental moralizing, Sasuke always hired a significant other for the traditional family week. However, his deception was constantly exposed. Will he be able to outsmart his family this time, or will he still have to submit to the will of his parents? Part 1. One of the main entertainments of the Uchiha Sasuke, one of the wealthiest people in the city, had a job at Bright Gate, a small but very prestigious company that was engaged in the development and production of microprocessors. The Uchiha did not delve into the development technology and operating principles of complex computer devices. He was involved in personnel selection and worked with people. It was interesting and sometimes very useful. Sasuke glanced at his watch and once again looked into the folder with someone else's resume. On the very first page, in the upper right corner, there was a photograph of a blue-eyed blonde man who had 6 symmetrical stripes on his cheeks. Uzumaki Naruto was the name of the guy in the photo, at least that's what it said on his resume. Sasuke had known this guy for a long time. Or rather, he knew him in absentia. He was obsessed with this blonde. The first time he noticed it was through the window of his BMW. A guy of about 20 walked thoughtfully across the road and didn't look around at all. Then the Uchiha was struck by the too bright appearance of the young man. A red jacket, black jeans, light golden disheveled hair. They collided for the second time at an intersection a couple of days later. Sasuke, returning from his lunch break, crossed the road. The same blonde man walked towards him. He smelled like summer. The Uchiha did not count the next meetings. He was looking for an opportunity to meet a stranger, just to catch a glimpse of him. If this was possible, the day was not lived in vain. Now Sasuke knew the name of the blonde guy he liked, but he couldn't talk to him. The guy didn't come for the interview. As if he wasn't the one who wanted to get a job, he wasn't the one who sent his resume by paper mail in the old-fashioned way. The day was drawing to a close. The streets were experiencing a rebirth. Cars came to life, the sidewalks filled with people. The bustle and noise began, symbolizing the end of the working day. Sasuke sighed. Another day is over. Today he was lucky and unlucky at the same time. On the one hand, he found out the blonde's name, on the other, he didn't see him. The phone squealed briefly, signaling a new message. The Uchiha glanced sideways at the glowing display, shook his head, stood up, took the folder with him, closed his office, said goodbye to everyone he knew with a familiar nod, and only once he was in the car did he read the SMS. It was terse, but it completely ruined Sasuke's mood. The fact is that his family was having a traditional family week. In principle, everything was nice and homely, but there was one small, or maybe a big problem. Sasuke was supposed to come to dinner, from which, in fact, this very week began, accompanied by his girlfriend or boyfriend. His family was very tolerant in this matter. For example, parents accepted Deidara, the boyfriend of Sasuke's older brother, as their own. Usually, on the eve of a family dinner, Sasuke found a guy or girl, and they, for a decent fee, played the role of his soulmate. However, for some reason the parents always managed to uncover the deception of their youngest son very easily. This time they said that if Sasuke tried to deceive them again, then they themselves would decide who their son should be with. Knowing his father, Sasuke had no doubt that the threat would be carried out. If this happens, the Uchiha will probably have to tie the knot with a profitable person. Now everything was a little different from usual. At least Sasuke knew exactly who he wanted to come to this dinner party with, but he didn't know where to find this person or how to convince him to agree to this farce. To distract himself a little, the Uchiha turned on the radio. As it turned out, not in vain. On the news he was happy with the news that there was a traffic jam on one of the main streets. As luck would have it, this was the same street he usually drove along. In order not to waste time, the Uchiha chose a longer route that ran through the bus terminal. He had to drive slowly. He wasn't the only one so smart, and besides, it was rush hour. For some reason, all the buses from different directions left at the same time. But still, there was no need to stand still. Slowly but surely, Sasuke approached the terminal. The most difficult thing is to pass several bus stops, then everything is much easier and faster. The last bus roared angrily and finally moved off. The platforms are practically empty. Sasuke, by inertia, slowly drove along the platforms, and from time to time looked out the window. Driving past the last platform, the Uchiha took a farewell look at the terminal, and not believing his eyes, pressed the brakes. On the bench, leaning back and closing his eyes, sat a guy who did not show up for the interview. Uzumaki Naruto? The blonde shuddered, opened his eyes and looked warily straight ahead. Opposite him stood a tall brunette with eyes as black as night. The guy somewhat resembled an aristocrat. Regular facial features, marbled skin, an expensive, elegant suit. Catching himself thinking that he was considering the stranger as some kind of exhibit, Naruto perked up, remembered the question, and was surprised. Do we know each other? I think so. Sasuke handed him the folder. You did not come. Where? Uzumaki looked into the folder with curiosity. Surprise immediately gave way to discontent. Where did you get my resume? Didn't you send it? No. I won't be able to work here either. Naruto muttered the last part under his breath. Then who? I have no idea. It, of course, could have been me, but honestly, I don't remember anything like that. I'm sorry. And you? Sasuke raised an eyebrow questioningly. He is used to being recognized on the streets, being shouted at, asked for something. The Uchiha learned not to pay attention to this and considered all these questions to be forced production noise. The only thing Sasuke didn't like were questions and statements like, "Oh, so you're an Uchiha. Sasuke, right? The same Uchiha who..." Sasuke usually did not listen further, and with the speed of light disappeared from the field of view of the speaker. Who? Sasuke was only asked this question as a child. It was impossible to imagine that there was someone in this city who did not know him by sight. Until this moment. Uchiha Sasuke. And you came here to personally tell me about something I didn't come to? And even the name doesn't mean anything to him. Amazing! No. Just, Let's go get something to eat. I'm with you? Yes. What nonsense! Naruto looked carefully at the Uchiha. He quite seriously invites me to go with him and eat. He's strange. Why does he need this? This is my first time seeing him. Why should I go somewhere with him? But I didn't agree. So he looks at me expectantly, and waits for my positive answer. What does he need from me? I'm so tired. I don't understand anything at all. But he offers a snack. Is he going to pay for it? What's the difference? When was the last time I ate? For the life of me, I don't remember. Have a snack? And this is what he was able to say after a long thought? In principle, it is possible. Wow, how simple. I can't believe he agreed. So lucky. What will you eat? That, Naruto said slowly, is what you're going to treat me to. He smiled slyly. So, you agree to eat everything I offer you? That's it. That's it. And what am I thinking about? Let's go to. Naruto was not delighted with the unexpected decision, but he did not take his words back out of principle. Sometimes this stubbornness of his caused a lot of trouble, but sometimes, very rarely. Perhaps all his stubborn successes were the exception to the rule, and they should not be paid attention to at all. Having reassured himself that he was not a girl of marriageable age, Uzumaki nevertheless climbed into a gray BMW, sat next to the driver's seat, and drove with a complete stranger to a completely unknown place. Crap. But there was no turning back, so Naruto looked thoughtfully out the window, trying not to think about the fact that he had never been to this part of the city. Wow! Uzumaki admired, following the waiter with a stony expression on his face. What did I actually expect? Some cheap place like the corner ramen shop? This Uchiha is clearly a stickler for high prices. But it's good here. There was a dim reddish light in the restaurant. Taking a closer look, Naruto noticed eccentric lampshades covered with something red on the relief ceiling. There was a strange but pleasant aroma coming from some of the tables. The tables were separated by numerous columns, with various patterns and paintings. It became clear why the waiters escorted their clients to the table. If they didn't do this, visitors would simply get lost. Soft, comfortable chairs. Naruto was not surprised when he saw the table filled with cutlery. Here any dream will seem like a fairy tale. I don't know why I agreed to go with this guy, but these chairs were worth it. Bon appetit. The waiter wished, bowed his head slightly and left. Sasuke chuckled. Naruto looked in amazement at the pile of different pots, plates, glasses, whatnot. There were even several types of forks. And all this wealth was somehow miraculously hidden with a pair of aluminum caps. Wow! Was all the blonde could say. How much food is there? And how delicious it smells! When will I be able to eat like this again? Don't miss the opportunity. Let's get started. He clasped his palms together in the manner of a prayer, grunted instead of a prayer, and reached for the nearest pot. They ate in complete silence, paying tribute to the chef's talent. Sasuke sometimes looked at Uzumaki, but he, without noticing it, devoured the contents of the plate with great enthusiasm. Either I was so hungry, or everything was so delicious that it was simply impossible to stop. He just has to spend that week with me. Yes. The Uchiha nodded mentally. But first, you need to find out at least something about him. Something that will help me understand what kind of person he is. Tell me about yourself. Sasuke suggested when his appetite had noticeably subsided. For what? Naruto was surprised, then shrugged his shoulders and added, I have nothing to tell about myself. How modest. Uzumaki did not answer. His mouth was busy. Do you have a dream? It's a secret. Do you have a girlfriend? The Uchiha paused a little and added, or a boyfriend? No. Naruto was lucky that he never put a piece of steak in his mouth. Were there? Why are you asking? Just like that. Sasuke grinned. Naruto frowned. Never mind. What do you need from me? Honestly? Yes. Be my boyfriend for a month. I will cry. As much as you want. Naruto did not answer. He looked at the fork thoughtfully. 2 prongs are so unusual. I wonder what he's thinking about. Thinking about the price? Are you joking? Uzumaki finally asked. No, I'm more serious than ever. Well, yes. Naruto addressed himself. Sorry? Why do you need it? You see, I have a family week coming up, which I have to come to with my boyfriend. A guy? The girl won't do? With a guy. Categorically. Yes. If you know exactly what you want, you will get it. Nothing is impossible for me, this is what I believe in. No, I know Sasuke. He looked searchingly at Uzumaki, expecting a response revelation from him. Naruto sighed. Miracles don't happen, that's what I know for sure. He leaned back on the soft back of his chair, closed his eyes and asked, What are your boyfriend's responsibilities? He did not throw himself on my neck, as many usually did. He was the first one to ask what needed to be done before he set a price. Oh yes, he said that he doesn't believe in miracles, then it's natural that he's looking for a catch in everything. He should live with me in the same house and accompany me to the necessary events. I will provide him with everything he needs. That is, I shouldn't sleep with you. No. I would like to. Maximum, a kiss. It's clear. Everything that starts well usually ends badly. I should probably refuse. But I'm so tired of all my problems. Of course, I won't solve them by running away for a month, but it's so tempting to take a break from everything. Moreover, I don't really need to do anything. Okay. I'll try to be your boyfriend, for exactly 1 month. Yes. Hooray! I will make you believe in miracles. Great! It's good that we agreed so quickly. We have a lot to do. You see, this time everyone simply has to believe that everything is serious with us. I'm a bad actor. Do not worry, everything will be alright. I already have an action plan. We will arrange several dates, take a bunch of photographs, so that no one will doubt that we have been dating for a long time. The legend of our meeting is simple, it is a summary. Next, we'll just talk, and in a week we'll get to know each other a little. It's clear. When is this week for you? Hard to say. In the near future. Who knows what my mother will come up with? Naruto nodded. Let's go to. Yes. Leaving the restaurant turned out to be much easier than entering. It was dark outside, and the cool wind hit my face unpleasantly. The guys hurried to get into the car. By the way, Sasuke remembered, starting the engine. You didn't name your price. I won't take the money. They're lucky they haven't gone yet. The Uchiha stared at Naruto in shock. I will not sell feelings, even if they are false. Part 2. Sasuke's mansion made a huge impression on Naruto. When he first saw the huge, bright house surrounded by a lush garden, Uzumaki couldn't believe his eyes before. He had only seen such luxury on TV. What was not here? And a swimming pool, and a tennis court, and a mini autodrome, and that probably wasn't all, just that small part of what Naruto managed to see. In fact, he was not very attracted to all this luxury. It was not the thing that he would like to receive, but he could not help but pay attention to the magnificent garden. Uzumaki had practically no understanding of botany, and could not name every bush, tree, or flower. But he had no doubt that most of the plants here were rare. What Naruto liked the most was the pond. A rocky bottom was visible in the clear cold water, and snow-white lilies were chaotically located on the motionless water surface. Most often my guests are attracted to the pool and the racing track, but they almost never notice this pond. Sasuke tilted his head to the side, thoughtfully watching Uzumaki play with cold water with childish delight. You wanted to discuss something with me? Naruto looked away from the pond, tilted his head to the side, and since he was squatting, looked at the Uchiha down up. Is this yes or no? Yes. I want to discuss a lot of things with you. For example, why did you sit at the bus stop and calmly watch the buses leave, instead of getting on one of them? Why do you refuse money, although I have no doubt that you need it? Why did you agree to play along with me? Can I be sure that you won't set me up? Well, Sasuke said out loud, there are several issues that we need to clarify in advance. Let's be clear. Uzumaki agreed easily and sat comfortably on the ground, making it clear that he was not going to leave here. I hope he doesn't live next to that pond all month. Firstly, since we are playing a couple, it should be as believable as possible. Logical, otherwise we will fail. Do you care? Not that. Well, Naruto frowned, thinking about the answer. It's so similar to a role-playing game. He beamed. Exactly, just like a game, you know? The Uchiha nodded. This was not far from the truth. I don't like to lose. It doesn't look like he's lying. Look how the eyes lit up. Well, if everything is as he says, then it's not so bad. Are you sure you don't need money? No. We don't need those. Naruto shook his head. He looked at Sasuke carefully and suddenly continued, I understand you. You have no guarantee that I won't set you up. Exactly right. The Uchiha mentally agreed. We can conclude an agreement, continued Uzumaki. It will indicate what we can and cannot do. Curious. He suggests that I make approximately the same document that I would make if I had to pay him. And this seems to suit me perfectly. That's true, but in reality, I'd bet he's only doing it to protect himself from me. I like him even more. In case of violation of the rules, Uzumaki thought. Yes. He looked pleased. The one who breaks the rules will do what the victim wants, let's call him that. Wow. And the stakes are high. Sasuke chuckled. Accepted. In a couple of hours I will give you a contract. Now let's go, I'll show you everything here and tell you, he suggested. As you say. Naruto stood up and approached the owner of the house. My mother loves parties. Sasuke began the story. So she insisted that there should be a swimming pool in this house. She also loves nature very much, and it is thanks to this love of hers that there is such a lush garden here. They emerged from the shadow of some spreading tree, walked around several bright flower beds, and passed by a huge pool filled with transparent blue water. Not far from it stood a small house. What was in it, Naruto could only guess. Sasuke considered it inappropriate to talk about the purpose of this building. My father, the Uchiha continued, is fond of golf. They were just passing by a small warehouse, in the small windows of which the rounded ends of clubs could be seen. Behind the building there was a small flat area intended for playing. Do you know how to play golf? No, I have never tried it. You haven't lost much. Naruto chuckled, looked around the small green field, and hurried to catch up with Sasuke. In complete silence they meandered along a narrow path lined with small pebbles. When the garages came into view, Uchiha continued, My older brother is interested in auto racing. He watches them with great pleasure and takes part in them. Naruto didn't really understand why he needed all this information about Sasuke's family. It was quite possible to do without it, because he doesn't have to take an exam on how well I know my boyfriend's family. And yet, Uzumaki listened and remembered. Walking along the garages, they turned right, past the tennis court, and, unexpectedly for Naruto, approached the main entrance to the mansion. 90% of my mother's friends are into tennis, Sasuke said thoughtfully, watching the servant open the massive doors. What are you interested in? Sasuke turned around in surprise. It's not that the question was somehow strange, he just didn't expect to hear it, especially from this guy who seems completely indifferent to his family's hobbies. Naruto believed that first of all he needed to learn as much as possible about his boyfriend. The Uchiha shrugged vaguely. He really shouldn't admit that what he likes most is his job. Simple communication with people gave Sasuke great pleasure, if only because people were not delighted with this communication. After all, most of them, unlike this guy, often knew who they were dealing with. A little bit of everything. The Uchiha answered evasively and hastened to change the subject. Do you work somewhere? Eh? Uzumaki seemed surprised. Surprise instantly gave way to puzzlement. He smiled sadly. But now I have an excellent reason to quit. Do you have problems with this? Sasuke found it difficult to imagine that quitting his job could be something difficult. It's my day off at Suna today, Naruto muttered under his breath, ignoring the Uchiha's question. But tomorrow is the night shift. I wonder if I can take a vacation? Suna? Yes. The 24-hour cafe bar, Suna, is the only place where Uzumaki has worked constantly for 5 whole years. During this time, he had already become accustomed to considering Suna his home, and his boss as his stepbrother. Sabaku no Gaara and he attended high school together. The teachers who endured all the antics of 2 restless boys could safely erect monuments during their lifetime. When Gaara turned 20, his parents decided that it was time for their son to take up the family business seriously, and as a gift they gave him sole ownership of Suna. In order not to be bored in a huge building alone, and to have at least one kindred spirit nearby, Gaara invited his old friend to work for him. He didn't even realize how much Naruto needed this work. Uzumaki took a black flip phone from his jeans pocket, intently studied the list of contacts, selected the one he needed and began to wait. Go on vacation, they grumbled instead of greeting. Your place is not going anywhere. Don't tell me that you missed the bar counter so much that in an hour you'll be with me. I'm going on vacation. What? You yourself just sent me there. That is great. I'll arrange everything myself, you don't have to come. God forbid you change your mind. That's it. Naruto hid the phone and looked contentedly at Sasuke. From now on I'm free for a whole month. What about dismissal? Don't remind me. Uzumaki darkened and hurried to change the subject. You have a contract. The Uchiha chuckled. Come in. He let the guest go ahead. Having crossed the threshold of the house, Naruto found himself in a spacious, bright hallway. To his surprise, he found no wardrobe, no hangers, no bedside tables, nothing that he was usually used to seeing in hallways. Instead of these undeniably useful things, the hallway was somewhat reminiscent of a museum. There was a gorgeous collection of paintings, an interesting selection of figurines of ancient and Scandinavian gods, large antique vases, the splendor of which did not require anything to be placed inside. Vases, like guards, stood near the stairs leading to the upper floors and several doorways. Sasuke followed Uzumaki. He looked at the pictures with an indifferent look and pushed Naruto forward. Without saying a word, he motioned for him to follow him. Having risen to the second floor, the Uchiha stopped, deciding two questions at once: where to place the Uzumaki, and where they should hold a working meeting. Suppressing the desire to drag the guest into his room, Sasuke confidently walked past some huge painting depicting a great battle and opened the oak door of his study. Still, you need to talk about business in a business setting. But he will live next to me. The Uchiha promised himself and sent the corresponding order to the butler's pager. Naruto looked around the office thoughtfully. It was a small room, in the center of which stood a wide, massive table. At the back of the room there is an antique bookcase. On one of the walls hung a detailed map of the world, on which some very important places were marked with red crosses. Near the table, on both sides, there was an armchair. Take a seat. I feel like I came to get a job. Uzumaki chuckled to himself. Exactly, I didn't come for the interview. And yet I don't remember sending him my resume at all. Maybe he wrote it, but he definitely didn't send it. Maybe Aunt Hannah saw the envelope and sent it to its destination? However, all this is no longer important. Sasuke always had everything he needed at hand. He had concluded similar agreements so many times that he had plenty of templates. However, now everything was somewhat different. Previously, the Uchiha limited the actions of his other half, in his own interests, so to speak, for his own safety. Now this seemingly simple-minded blonde demands to be limited. Uchiha Sasuke, God forbid he does something irreparable. I think I understand why, after reading the contract I proposed, most of my partners looked somewhat disappointed. Sasuke took the documents from the table and handed them to the Uzumaki. Naruto sighed heavily when he saw the number of sheets covered in disgusting small print, but still began to carefully study the proposed agreement. Amazing! Sasuke couldn't help but admire. He has enough endurance to read all this. Even I would omit a couple of pages, those where the same thing is actually repeated several times, only under different circumstances. The Uchiha almost completely remembered all the versions of the contracts that he had ever had by heart. Naruto suppressed a yawn and mentally scolded himself for wanting to sigh again. You can't blindly sign even this seemingly decent agreement. He must read it to the end and make sure that all points suit him. Uzumaki knew firsthand about the tricky third subparagraph of the 20th paragraph. If you miss it, you either spend money on a lawyer or fulfill the terms of the deal. However, this particular agreement was quite strange. The Uchiha has no way to bring him, the Uzumaki, to justice. But it is unlikely that the owner of such a luxurious, and most importantly, rich house will not be able to pin his hapless companion against the wall. So Naruto persisted in reading. Yes, here are recommendations for all occasions. Uzumaki summed up respectfully, having finished reading the last paragraph. About behavior in public places, in the presence of relevant persons. What there is then, yes, nodded Sasuke. What will you say? It's all strangely designed. Don't worry, the contract is legally certified. There is no violation condition here. We'll add this. Do you agree with the rest? I can accept that. An interesting interpretation of the question. The Uchiha took out his phone and called someone. But I'll have to accept this agreement, otherwise I won't be able to be with you. However, there are many points here that suit me. The conversation didn't take long. After giving some brief instructions, Sasuke put the phone aside, leaned back in his chair and looked thoughtfully at the Uzumaki. The guy seemed calm and relaxed. He looked at the map with curiosity, trying to read the names of the marked cities, or at least determine the part of the world in which this bright cross stood. Naruto didn't ask any questions, and Sasuke was in no hurry to explain. Finally, Uzumaki looked up from studying the map and looked wearily at the owner of the office. When does this, your week start? In theory, in a couple of days, but unfortunately, I can't say the date for sure. And this event lasts a week, or is it just called that? Looking at this simple-minded guy, I would never have thought that he would be so meticulous about figuring out every little detail of what he had to do. However, he does everything right, which is probably why it surprises me so much. Honestly, I don't know. I have never been able to convince my parents that. Sasuke thought for a moment, trying to find the right words. Your family is strange. This was said without a hint of a smile or irony. It was not ridicule or condemnation, just a dry statement of fact. Sasuke didn't have time to answer, he was distracted by a knock on the door. A man in a classic gray suit entered the office. Naruto looked at him with a puzzled look. It was kind of strange to see a person wearing sunglasses indoors, let alone late in the day. Can he really see anything? Was all Sasuke said. Naruto frowned in displeasure. What does this mean? How to understand a person who uses the same letter combination almost all the time? However, the man understood the owner of the office instantly. He handed Uzumaki a folder with documents, and even tried to hand him a pen. It's not worth it. Naruto waved her off. Anyway, I won't sign anything until I read it. You've already read this. The Uchiha noted. It's okay, I'll read it again. The Uzumaki deepened his reading. It really was all the same, exactly the same as he had read a couple of minutes ago, but still the blonde stubbornly peered at the letters. I didn't want to read it at all. The meaning of some phrases remained unclear, and some sentences generally seemed like a stupid set of words, but still Naruto could not afford to take it and sign it without reading it. What if the Uchiha ordered something to change? Have you ever had problems with contracts? Sasuke asked, seeing no reason for such a thorough check. Yes. It was so that, without reading, I signed. A heavy sigh. I've been reading since then. It happened that I read it and agreed to remove one point. The point was removed, but they handed me a completely different document. You won't understand it without reading it. I've been rereading it ever since. You learn from mistakes. The Uchiha grinned. Naruto read to the end, and making sure that only the agreed changes were made to the contract, he picked up the pen. What am I doing here? Not only have I read some nonsense twice, but I'm also signing up for some dubious adventure, and only so that I can rest for a month. And I'm not even sure that I will succeed. After all, just one phone call, just like 5 years ago. No, you can't even think about it. Everything will be fine. And now, and in a month, and in a year. Well, yes, I myself just have to believe it. This is your room. Sasuke's calm voice brought Uzumaki out of his thoughts. Naruto looked around. He clearly remembered going up the stairs. So they're on the 3rd floor? Or maybe higher? How many floors are there anyway? This house is much larger inside than it appears from the outside. And which of these doors is mine? Naruto looked around, puzzled. My room is next door. The Uchiha pointed to the opposite door. If you need anything, come in. If you don't need it, come in too. In general, why do you need a separate room? Live with me. But no. I managed to sign this agreement. Oh, so that's where my room is. Naruto nodded and pressed the doorknob. Sasuke chuckled and hurried down to the 1st floor. The servants always discussed the latest events, and of course, their immediate superiors. Very often they knew a lot of interesting facts, and some of their statements and assumptions, oddly enough, turned out to be very true. Silently entering the kitchen, the Uchiha poured himself some coffee and sat down at the table so that it was hidden by the column. Taking a small sip of the aromatic drink, he listened. Did you see who Sasuke brought today? Came muffledly from a small room in the kitchen. Yes. They snorted in response. The Uchiha winced. Sakura annoyed him, but she did her job well, so Sasuke was in no hurry to fire her. What do you think? The cook asked. What can I say? Another purchase. The maid joined in. I'll go meet him. Sakura sighed. We must be polite to our guests. She clearly quoted someone. Naruto looked around the room thoughtfully. Quite spacious. Most of the space is occupied by the bed. Large, wide, comfortable, with a warm blanket and a small pillow. Yes, one such bed in this room is quite enough, and there is no need for a wardrobe standing near one of the walls, or a large desk placed near a large window, or a small bedside table hidden near the head of the bed. There was a knock on the door. Naruto frowned. Who needed it? Most likely, they are not knocking on him, it's just that everything that happens in the corridor can be clearly heard in this room. Nodding to himself, Uzumaki took off his jacket and threw it on the chair. The knock was repeated. Yes? Excuse me. A pretty maid with short pink hair came into the room. She smiled welcomingly, although there was wariness and strange hostility in her expressive green eyes. Would you like to take a bath? The girl politely asked. Why not? Oh, it seemed that the maid did not expect such an answer. Then please. She opened the door, which Naruto had not noticed before, just in case. What do you want after the bath? Dinner? No thanks. Guilt? No. Do you prefer something stronger? No. Would you like some coffee or tea? Perhaps you are interested in some books or games? Maybe you want to watch a movie or… Girl. Naruto smiled disarmingly. I don't need anything, thank you for your concern. Sakura hesitated. Then, if you please, she muttered, watching the Uzumaki unbutton his shirt. Good luck. The blonde grinned. Sakura, what's wrong with you? The cook grumbled dissatisfiedly. You've been in the clouds since you met your guest. The girl sighed. You should have seen it, you should have just seen his smile. She is so. And how she suits him. He never smiled at me. Sasuke was offended. It's okay, we'll fix it tomorrow. What kind of body does he have? The girl continued. The Uchiha perked up his ears. When I left, he was just taking off his shirt. What a body! He's definitely an athlete. In general, if you dress him up, you can easily confuse him with a model. And also, he is so polite. Guys. Seems I fell in love. Fell in love? What about beautiful lord? Well, I don't even know which one to choose. I would like. Even so? The Uchiha frowned. This is bad, just terrible. Or rather, it's good that Naruto made such a positive impression on her, but he never smiled at me. Sasuke left his secluded place and slowly headed upstairs. Why did he smile at some girl there? Maybe he likes them better? Then why did he agree to my proposal? He didn't even take money from me. Does this mean he wants to be close to me, or is he attracted to something else? For example? Lost in conjecture, Sasuke approached the Uzumaki's room. Without thinking about what he would say, he knocked. There was no answer. This surprised the Uchiha a little. The light was on in the room, which means his guest was busy with something. Judging by the fact that it was quiet outside the door, Naruto was most likely reading something. Was the Uzumaki so engrossed in the story that he didn't hear the knock on the door? After knocking again to be sure, and not receiving any answer, Sasuke entered the room without permission. Contrary to all the Uchiha's expectations, Naruto was fast asleep. He was not disturbed by the light on, or the light bang with which the door closed, or the angry snort of an unexpected guest. He just frowned slightly, rolled over onto his back and pulled back the blanket a little. And why did I sign this agreement? Sasuke sat down on the edge of the bed and carefully traced the outline of the Uzumaki's face with his index finger. Exactly, precisely so that now he can't do anything. Or maybe, well, to hell with it all? Do you think that if I break the agreement, what will he demand from me? No, you cannot. Firstly, I really need him, and secondly, for me to do what I'm told. This will never happen. Naruto snorted quietly and tried to pull the blanket back over himself. The attempt was unsuccessful, but it looked quite funny. Sasuke smiled involuntarily. Funny! He stood up, covered the guy, couldn't resist, and tenderly kissed his plump lips. Without waiting for the possible awakening of Uzumaki, the Uchiha silently left the room, after turning off the light. Tomorrow they had a very busy day ahead of them, and they had to prepare for it. Part 3. The next morning, Sasuke found Naruto next to his favorite pond. The blonde played with the ice water just like yesterday, and did not seem to notice the cool gusts of wind. Morning. Uzumaki smiled, seeing his reflection in the water. How did you sleep? Great. Naruto stood up and stretched. The Uchiha couldn't help but notice that Uzumaki looked much better now than yesterday. Cheerful lights appeared in his eyes, the evening pallor was replaced by a barely noticeable blush, and the guy himself seemed much more energetic. Let's go. Sasuke turned onto the nearest path and slowly walked towards the mansion. Where? Naruto, lagging behind a little, followed the Uchiha. Have breakfast. Do we have food on schedule? No, at will. Sasuke stopped abruptly and turned around. Are not you hungry? Uzumaki honestly thought about the question. He had already gotten used to not having breakfast, though not because he didn't have a bite in his throat in the morning. I'm hungry. Just clarifying. Naruto suddenly smiled. You don't tell me anything, everything has to be pulled out of you with pincers. He exaggeratedly sighed heavily. And the bad actor spoke. The Uchiha chuckled and moved on. Sakura was right. His smile is amazing. And why did I just agree to play along with him? Uzumaki thought sadly. It's as dark as my life. Breakfast passed in complete silence. Naruto devoured the curry with gusto, relegating his dreams of hot, fresh ramen to the background. Everything was very tasty anyway. From time to time he looked away from his plate and looked around. The dining room, like the entire mansion, was impressive. In the center of the spacious, bright room there was a dining table, accompanied by 6 completely identical chairs. The walls were decorated with numerous frescoes, which, if you looked closely, depicted various countries of the Middle Ages. Let's go, Sasuke said when breakfast was finished. He stood up from the table and looked expectantly at Uzumaki, waiting for him to follow his example. How can I get closer to him? Thought the Uchiha, getting into the car. Everything was much simpler before. Waiting for Naruto to close the door behind him, he, without being distracted from his thoughts, started the engine, and the car obediently moved off. I didn't have to do anything, everyone was trying to hang on my neck. They stopped at an intersection. Now I need to do something. What? How can I get him interested? I have no idea what's on this guy's mind. Hey! Naruto gently shook Sasuke's shoulder. Are you okay? He added a little alarmed. The Uchiha perked up. Lost in thought, he did not immediately notice that the traffic light was already allowing him to move on, and the cars lined up behind him were honking their horns irritably, and their drivers were shouting something displeased. Maybe we should have said something? The Uchiha started the engine and glanced sideways at Uzumaki, who was looking at the street without much interest. Maybe we should say something? We need to talk about something. About what? He doesn't ask anything. Should I ask myself? Where are we going? Apparently, Uzumaki was also tired of the silence. To the store. Sasuke barely suppressed the urge to say again. Shop? Which? For what? Here you go. There are already 3 questions. You need clothes. I need it. Naruto arched his eyebrow in confusion. He clearly disagreed, and now he was going to say so. But instead he suddenly shrugged his shoulders. Okay. The Uchiha grinned. That's not what you were going to say. Eh? So I know what you will answer. The car stopped in front of a tall building. A crowd of girls clung to the glass display cases with delight. They were heatedly discussing something, poking their fingers at the glass from time to time. Naruto looked around the building with a dissatisfied look. He didn't like shopping. It was always tiring and terribly exhausting. But there was no choice. He signed the contract after all. The doors automatically opened in different directions, inviting visitors to come inside. Sasuke entered first. Naruto, sighing heavily, followed him. The store was like a maze. Rows of a wide variety of clothes stretched across the entire room and ended in open closets in which cellophane packages glittered. The store seemed like a general store. What was not here? And coats, and shirts, and t-shirts, and sweaters, and jackets, and various scarves, ties, t-shirts, sports uniforms, formal suits, jeans. Wow! Naruto hurried back to the reception where Sasuke was staying. The Uchiha was talking quietly with the manager about something. Did you find anything? Sasuke interrupted as soon as he noticed Uzumaki. The blonde's eyes widened in horror. No, but should I have looked? What are you saying, no? Okay. Naruto sighed with relief and turned around at the noise. Second floor. He was amazed in horror. Women's department. The manager explained politely. Come along, I'll help you pick something up. Okay. What colors do you prefer? Orange and black. Sasuke annoyedly watched the retreating couple. He wanted to go with them, but he decided to wait for the Uzumaki here. The manager received clear instructions, and the Uchiha could only wait patiently for Naruto to return. Judging by his dissatisfied face, he won't stay here long. This made me happy. About 2 hours passed and Uzumaki was still not there. Sasuke started to get angry. Maybe this blonde guy is actually a gorgeous actor who pretended to hate stores, but in reality is crazy about them. Maybe he only dreamed of getting into these, ranks. The Uchiha was distracted from his angry thoughts by his phone. Message? How strange. When was the last time I received a message? Not give God this some kind spam. Fortunately for the operator, it was not spam. Save me. Naruto was short. Sasuke chuckled. It was nice that Uzumaki remembered his phone number and now asked for help. Then he frowned. What's going on there? Before he had time to answer his question, a pleadingly angry cry was heard. Leave me alone. The Uchiha chuckled. It was clear where to go. Walking around the row of jackets, he went out to the fitting rooms. A manager stood near one of them, biting her lower lip, holding some kind of suit in her hands. The fitting room curtain was pulled aside. Sasuke had the pleasure of seeing Naruto in blue-black skinny jeans, a light blue long-sleeve shirt with the top buttons undone, and a black jacket. The guy was, to put it mildly, not in the mood. What's happening? The Uchiha inquired coldly. The manager flinched. Uzumaki snorted. Sorry. The girl took a deep breath and pulled herself together. My apologies. I got carried away. Simple. A suspicious light appeared in her eyes. I haven't met a person with such great data for a long time. She turned to Naruto. Young man, do you want to be our model? No. Uzumaki abruptly interrupted her. The girl drooped. It's a pity, she muttered, but immediately perked up, remembering Sasuke. And you? She asked hopefully. No. The Uchiha besieged her coldly. The girl was upset, but didn't show it. Remembering her work, she immediately switched to a businesslike tone. What will you take? Nothing. Naruto snorted. That's it. Sasuke chuckled. For what? The blonde was sincerely surprised, having forgotten that he was angry just a minute ago. I can't stand all this for the rest of my life. Just try your best. Oh my God, is he even listening to me? Naruto trailed behind the Uchiha with displeasure, carrying part of the purchases in his hands. Not a bad start. The Uchiha opened the trunk and loaded the purchases there. I would never have thought that in just 1 minute my mood could improve so much, and his. Sasuke glanced sideways at the gloomy Uzumaki. Worse. He took the packages from the blonde and closed the trunk. Okay, now we have a photo studio planned. Perhaps we should warn Karen. Having gotten rid of the bags, Naruto immediately got into the car. It was necessary to hide as quickly as possible. What if this strange girl, bringing replacement costumes at the speed of light, decides to make a model out of him? He will convince the authorities that this will be best for the store, take guards and then Uzumaki will have to agree. The door slammed softly, but Naruto didn't think anything of it. He continued to glare at the innocent shop windows. The engine growled ingratiatingly, and the car slowly moved off. The Uzumaki continued to look out the window. Only now his gaze did not linger on anything in particular. And I managed to contact this guy. It was hot in the car, and Uzumaki, looking up from contemplating the boring streets, began to take off his jacket. I wanted to leave that store so much that I didn't even bother changing clothes. Where is my favorite t-shirt and sweatshirt? The blonde thought with annoyance. Although it's quite warm today, and it was a little hot in the jacket, it's still not a reason to turn yourself into some kind of doll. Naruto shuddered at the thought of changing clothes. I wanted to have fun and relax, didn't I? So what do I do instead? And really, with what? Where are we going? There was no answer. Getting into the car, Sasuke decided not to distract Uzumaki either from contemplating the streets or from his thoughts, especially since the guy did not react in any way to the fact that they were driving. Karen said with delight that she had been ready to welcome her old friend for 4 months now. When it came to photography, the photographer became a little insane. She still wondered why Sasuke had not arrived yet, but kept putting it off, until today. Karen was well aware of the traditional week in the Uchiha family, and this tradition seemed very funny to her. At every opportunity, the photographer gladly mentioned this. True, she never came up with advice, and did not say what she really thought about all this. But taking a bunch of photographs screaming that the people depicted in them managed to travel around the world 3 times, meet, fall in love, quarrel, break up was a relaxing job for her for the evening. What can we say if the old friend is ready to generously reward all this backbreaking work? Sasuke! Naruto did not click in front of the brunette's nose, although his hands were very itching to do some kind of dirty trick. But Uzumaki did not risk distracting the driver that much. Where are we going? To the photo studio. The Uchiha chuckled, without being distracted from the road. For what? In order to talk about anything with this strange brunette, Uzumaki had to ask the stupidest questions. Again there was no answer. Sasuke turned into some alley, drove through several courtyards and stopped near a nondescript 9-story building. Taking his foot off the pedal, he turned to Naruto and still deigned to answer. Because we're a couple, remember? The Uzumaki frowned, pretending to remember. For some reason now, being next to such a serious Uchiha. Finally, he nodded uncertainly. I remember something. According to our legend, we have been dating for about a year. Wow! Uzumaki was amazed. None of my relationships have lasted this long. Oh, what am I talking about? It's a linden tree. About a year? Oh well. Naturally, they won't believe us. Exactly. I wouldn't believe it. To shake their confidence in our lies a little. Sasuke ignored the blonde's remark. We need joint photographs from different places. Something like walking, traveling. And they will believe these photos? Uzumaki was surprised. Do you have any idea that in a year of relationship, in theory, I should know so much about you, so much? The Uchiha arched an eyebrow questioningly, expecting the blonde to name the exact percentage of known information. As much as I don't know. Naruto finished somehow hesitantly. But he's right. We have to know a lot about each other. Sasuke mentally agreed. And we don't know. This is a reason to ask him around. So ask, suggested the Uchiha. What do you want to know? Well, Uzumaki hesitated. What should I know? I'm 27, 6'8" tall, blood type. He thought for a moment whether it was worth talking about this, and still decided to continue. 4th. When's your birthday? The 23rd of July. Sasuke grinned at the corners of his lips. Your turn. Well, my birthday is October 10th. Very soon. The Uchiha noted to himself. We'll have to congratulate him. Now I'm 26, height 1.75 m, blood type. He thought, as if remembering. Then he reluctantly continued. 3rd. You see, we already know something. Sasuke chuckled. Something? Yes, this is too little. Uzumaki was indignant. So let's find out more. The insinuating tone in which the Uchiha spoke made Naruto very wary. For example, why did you agree to participate in my adventure and don't want to take money for it? What benefit do you get from this? Uzumaki tried to move away. I told you that I don't intend to sell even false feelings. Don't sell it then. Imagine that you are an actor and just play your role. But I'm not an actor. Afraid of getting attached to me, Naruto? Uzumaki suddenly smiled, which greatly puzzled Sasuke. You said that you would provide me with everything this month. The Uchiha nodded. And a house, and food, and even unnecessary clothes. It turns out that I don't need to think about anything for a whole month. I can do whatever I want. True, I don't want anything, or rather I want the impossible. I can finally get some sleep. Naruto pushed his thoughts aside. I can rest. As for me, playing along with you is not such a big price to pay for a whole month of paid vacation. You're too. I know. Naruto sharply interrupted Sasuke. There are things that I am not going to change, at least for now. What is he talking about? The Uchiha was surprised, but did not continue the topic. Do you want to know something else about me? Don't know. Let's go. Sasuke, succumbing to an inner impulse, ruffled his unruly golden hair and got out of the car. Karen's photo studio was located on the 5th floor, and was actually the photographer's apartment. One of the 3 rooms was intended for receiving clients, another was proudly called a workshop, the 3rd room, according to Karen, was her den. The aroma of strong coffee hung in the air. The photographer, a short girl with long, unruly red hair, cheerful caramel eyes and a dreamy, thoughtful smile on her lips, greeted the guests as if they were the most dear, beloved and long-awaited relatives. She did not consider it necessary to introduce herself, as well as to find out the name of a stranger. Come in, come in. Don't take off your shoes. One could envy the photographer's cheerfulness. I just made coffee. Will you? It's with nuts, cinnamon, I might admit. Karen suddenly frowned, but literally a second later she brightened up. I also have cappuccino and chocolate. Okay. The photographer nodded happily and switched to Uzumaki. What will you do? Naruto couldn't believe that the girl understood the Uchiha. He himself still didn't understand what those hms meant. Apparently they had different meanings. With cinnamon. The blonde remembered in time that he was asked a question. Karen narrowed her eyes suspiciously and muttered, competitor, then grinned. Come into the studio. I'll bring everything now, while you choose the decorations. The studio was quite spacious. There was no doubt that this was the largest room in the apartment, but going inside, it seemed that the hostess was trying to expand it by hook or by crook. The light gray wallpaper turned black closer to the floor, but the room, oddly enough, seemed very bright. In the farthest corner, several tripods propped up the wall. On a low table lay a couple of cameras and several multicolored children's umbrellas. There were decorations next to the equipment. The very first of them depicted a winter coniferous forest. Snow-white snow lay in flakes on the wide branches of tall pines. A trampled brown and white path simply meandered between the trees and disappeared into the thick of the forest. Near the set there was another table, on which sat a netbook and a projector aimed at the opposite wall. Not far from the door there were a couple of chairs, and some packages were lying around. What does it mean to choose? Naruto looked suspiciously at the impressive array of decorations. And how to make a believable picture out of this? It will be immediately obvious. Here. Sasuke seemed to have heard the blonde's first question. He handed him a photo album. Look. If you like something, just remember the number or tell me. If you like something. Uzumaki muttered under his breath. What difference does it make to me? And nevertheless he opened the album and began to look at the photographs. What was there? And the steppe, and mountains, and deserts, and cable cars, and shopping centers, entertainment venues, clubs. And so much of everything. Different angles, countries, interiors. And all this is here? Naruto didn't believe it, looking suspiciously at the even arrangement of decorations. Your order! Karen came into the studio with a tray in her hands. Walking around the bags thrown near the entrance, she walked to the middle of the room, put the tray on the floor, and began to remove the cups from it. Coffee with cinnamon, she recited, handing the Uzumaki a cup with a large spotted puppy on the side. Ordinary black coffee for regular customers. The photographer continued to fool around, handing the Uchiha a cup completely painted with laughing daisies. Sasuke grimaced. Naruto involuntarily smiled. Exactly, he said. I want summer. 2 pairs of eyes stared at him in bewilderment. Summer? Sasuke was surprised. I thought he loved autumn, if only because his birthday is in October. He tried to explain such confidence to himself. Sure, not a problem. Karen perked up. Sea, mountains, fields, deserts, tombs? Uzumaki hesitated. Let everything be. The Uchiha intervened. Well, I do not. Please leave your maximalist habits in the car. Naruto blurted out in one breath. Karen whistled. Let there be mountains. Sasuke snorted arrogantly. Well, at least it's not the sea. He took a careful sip of the scalding liquid. No sugar. The Uchiha approved. Still, Karen managed to study me well. With or without snow? The photographer continued to ask. Without. Naruto successfully ignored the caustic remark of his boyfriend. At the top or at the bottom? In the process of rising. The Uchiha and Karen looked at each other. About. The girl finally said. This is an idea. How do you like this? Before, during, and after? What? What are you hinting at? Uzumaki did not understand. I'm talking about the rise, actually. Karen arched her eyebrow in confusion, and then smiled slyly. What were you thinking about? Nothing, Naruto blurted out. Shall we start? He hastened to change the subject. Okay. The photographer put down her still full cup with a sigh, took the radio mouse out of her pocket, and pressed the buttons a couple of times. You don't care what mountains, she clarified, just in case. That must have meant. Yes. Yeah. Uzumaki responded more clearly. Great. Then decide right away, which of you got up faster? For what? The Uchiha condescended to ask a normal question. How? We're taking photos for your fun week, right? You need to capture the kiss. Karen smiled excitedly, but then dropped her head and asked suspiciously, or do you not care who climbed first? No, Naruto responded immediately. Distracted by the aromatic coffee, he listened to what the photographer had said before. I can't lose to this topic. Team? The girl asked in surprise, pulling out a case with glasses from the table. Yes. Uzumaki nodded importantly. It's typical of the theme. Team? Sasuke was surprised. So, he took the risk of coming up with such a nickname for me. Well, that's even more interesting. Not a bad idea. Although, the nickname could be more cultural, but oh well. Naturally, I'll be the first to rise. The Uchiha chuckled calmly. And why is that? Naruto was indignant. Karen, having forgotten why she was wearing glasses, listened with delight to the argument between the lovers. Because you, Dobe, are simply not able to overtake me. How do you know? We haven't checked this. Do you want to check? Yes. That is, no. Uzumaki realized. Sasuke just grinned. Here. Karen squeezed into a pause. Just imagine. She clapped her hands as if forcing her to turn on her imagination. Sasuke rises first, therefore you will be second. Only now the girl regretted that she did not know the blonde's name. I'm Naruto. The guy chuckled. Uzumaki. Naruto. Karen. The girl immediately switched gears. Just Karen. She didn't want to admit that they were namesakes. So, let's not get distracted. Being second would make Naruto very unhappy. Throws a tantrum. No, Uzumaki immediately retorted. Okay, the girl agreed easily. You'll just be very offended. But this is not a reason to break up. You have love. Karen said all this in an extremely serious tone. You will definitely need to make peace. We have love, of course. The Uchiha loves herself, I love my problems. We have complete reciprocity. Therefore, Karen continued, you have two ways to make peace. One, so be it, we discard. All that remains is a kiss. Logical. Sasuke mentally agreed. Karen speaks volumes. Besides, this is a great reason to kiss him. The Uchiha looked at the dumbfounded Uzumaki. No way. But, according to the contract, I have to. Well, yes. I signed up myself. I said that I need to play as realistically as possible. Once I said it, I have to do it. What did Sasuke say? Pretend to be an actor? I'm an actor? This is not funny. However, of course, I have a chance to fool complete strangers. Pretend. I have to pretend that I love. It's stupid, I can't. How do you like it? Karen broke the unexpected silence. Naruto perked up. He did not immediately realize that the girl had already turned on the projector and displayed an image of a light brown plateau on the wall. The tops of the mountains were densely covered with green moss, and it seemed as if there was a green field stretching out in the distance. Then why are these paper decorations here? Naruto was surprised. Is it really just for beauty? They just show that there are pictures, but modern technology is much more practical and convenient. He even looked away from his thoughts. And how do we get here? Sasuke asked skeptically. It's not a problem. The girl waved it off. The main thing is that you like the area. It'll do. The guys responded at the same time. Karen was amazed at the solidarity of the clients. So, that means we're filming you at the foot. She zoomed in and slightly tilted the image so that stone ledges became visible, along which, if desired, one could climb to the top. Then we will depict the rise, after which romance is at the top. The perfect plan. But instead of saying it out loud, Sasuke just nodded. Okay. Uzumaki sighed. Only you should take pictures with us. For what? The girl was surprised. Based on your legend. The blonde hesitated, mentally cursed the legend, and continued. The two of us are climbing the mountain. And at the same time someone is taking pictures of us. Can you tell me who? It makes sense. Sasuke chuckled. I have to agree. Admitted Karen. Fine. The photographer took one of the tripods and positioned it so that it would not interfere with the projector creating the scenery. Then she chose one of the cameras, checked its settings, took a couple of test photos, cursed quietly, changed something again, took a photo, and this time, apparently, she was satisfied. Ready! Karen reported cheerfully. Now. She walked up to the packages and rustled them loudly. Change your clothes. The girl handed the Uchiha 2 t-shirts. For your sake. She smiled coquettishly. So be it, I'll preen myself. Taking with her her cup of cold coffee, she ran out of the studio. Yeah. Sasuke began to take off his shirt. The most inconvenient thing about all this is changing clothes. But I have a great opportunity. For some reason, should I change clothes? Uzumaki brazenly interrupted Sasuke's thoughts. Just put it on. It sounded like an order. Naruto snorted with displeasure and glanced sideways at the t-shirts. One was black, the other was orange. The black one seemed a little larger, and most likely, was intended for the Uchiha, which means he will have to wear the orange one. At least this very lively girl got the color right. Sasuke casually tossed his shirt onto a nearby chair and selected a black t-shirt. The Uzumaki chuckled. Even if he was impressed by the prominent muscles and slender pumped-up body of the Uchiha, he didn't show it. After some more hesitation, Naruto took off his shirt. I want to touch him. The Uchiha mentally licked his lips, examining the slender, tone-tan body. Unfortunately, Sasuke couldn't get a good look at him. Naruto quickly pulled on his t-shirt. It's too small for me. Uzumaki shrugged his shoulders, trying to stretch the thick fabric at least a little. And, by the way, it's too big for him. The blonde glanced sideways at the Uchiha. Here I am. Karen flew up to the camera at full speed. Whether the girl preened herself as she promised or not remained a mystery. She was still wearing black short shorts and a white linen t-shirt, but instead of funny soft slippers, she was wearing sneakers. Stand up, the photographer cheerfully commanded. Well, I'm in the middle. She quickly clicked something in the camera and hurried to squeeze in between this sweet couple. Smile. It turned out to be very difficult to smile, but the guys honestly tried. In the end, Karen was the happiest of all. Naruto smiled somehow nervously, as if he expected some kind of trick from the girl hanging on his right shoulder. Sasuke frowned more, as if blaming his friend for separating him and the Uzumaki. The camera clicked a couple of times, after which the girl ran to look at the photos and, laughing, changed the settings. Okay guys, she continued to command. Now that I'm not around, you should just be happy. Come closer. The guys approached each other. More. They obeyed. Hug him. Without addressing anyone in particular, the photographer ordered. Sasuke, after hesitating for a second, put his hand on Uzumaki's waist and pulled him towards him. Karen took pictures selflessly, now zooming in and out. I'm frozen. The Uchiha was surprised, feeling the blonde's slight trembling. Still, I adore Karen. If it weren't for her, it's unlikely that I would have had a worthy reason to hug him so soon. He smiled. It's warm, Naruto thought, snuggling closer to Sasuke. He forced himself to come to terms with what was happening. Since he undertook to pretend to be an Uchiha's boyfriend, he must do it as best as possible. And all this should look as believable as possible. If I were really his boyfriend, how would I behave? You are so cute. Karen's happy exclamation was accompanied by another photo flash. Great. Now we will climb up. Maybe we should not? Naruto asked carefully. Why is this? The girl was surprised. You suggested it yourself. I'm afraid of heights. So, you're just messing around with make-believe? Said Sasuke. So you're taking pictures of us from below? No, from above. The girl stuck out her tongue. You should have seen your faces when the three of us took pictures. If I didn't climb this mountain myself, you threw me there yourself. So, we looked carefully at the picture and remembered the protrusions. Eat? Having received 2 affirmative nods, she turned off the projector. Now, imagine that you are climbing up. Karen returned to the camera, looked at the guys and grabbed the tripod. Lowering her head to her chest, she shuddered barely noticeably, trying to hold back her laughter. The coldness of the metal in her left hand reminded her that she was still working. This helped me pull myself together and get back to work. Armed with a camera, she more or less calmly began to command again. Take your foot off the ground. Yes, yes. Like this. Freeze. We're standing. Let's keep our balance. A few quick clicks, and a new command changed arms and legs. Freeze. Well done. A couple of minutes later, the girl made the guys happy with the news that the terrible mountain pass had been passed. Chuckling quietly, she quickly flipped through the footage, nodded with satisfaction, and stared at the clients with delight. Guys, she reminded, we are at the top. Is it true? Panic notes slipped into Uzumaki's voice. No, of course, the photographer sighed. Listen, if you are really afraid of heights, then why did you choose the mountains? It's beautiful, and the air is clean. I didn't think that I would have to climb these mountains. I suggested it myself. Karen chuckled. My tongue is my enemy, Naruto muttered. Sasuke just smiled. Okay. The photographer returned the image of the mountain. Sasuke climbed in first. And why is that? I climbed first. So, Naruto, you climbed up second and were terribly offended. But your fear of heights does not allow you to move far from Sasuke. And you're too far away, she prompted, lowering her voice. The Uzumaki came closer. Yeah, that's it, the girl encouraged. You're very afraid of heights. she suggested soulfully. The blonde came even closer. Very, Karen repeated. Naruto hesitantly squeezed the Uchiha's wrist. For a moment their eyes met. And you're offended? The photographer continued. Naruto immediately turned away. Okay, so be it. Now you, Sasuke. You don't like that people are sulking at you. She made a significant pause. Naruto. You want to make peace with him, but he doesn't listen to you at all. What to do? Well, do it. Karen was burning with impatience. Sasuke carefully pulled the Uzumaki towards him, forcing him to look at him. The knowledge that he was holding the person he most desired was intoxicating. I wanted to squeeze him even tighter in my arms. But judging by how tense the blonde was, he had to act extremely carefully. Naruto wanted to break free. It was simply impossible to remember that they seemed to be on top of a mountain. He desperately wanted to break off this strangely sensational embrace and leave. He became more and more convinced that the game he had started was not for him. He was ready to sacrifice his own pride just to stop what was happening, and only the Uchiha's hand prevented him from doing a rash act. Ready? Sasuke asked very quietly. Having received a barely noticeable nod in response, the Uchiha lightly touched Naruto's lips with his lips and ran his tongue over them, as if tasting them. The realization that there was nowhere to retreat and that he would have to continue what he had started forced Naruto to obey the rules of the game. He opened his mouth slightly, offering Sasuke PTS, but the Uchiha didn't seem to notice. He enjoyed the desired lips, either biting them or simply smacking them. Sasuke wasn't sure he could control himself. He did not expect that Uzumaki would respond to his affection, that he would want to take the initiative into his own hands. Uchiha. He ran his tongue over Naruto's teeth in a possessive manner, touched the palate, and persistently rubbed against his tongue, as if inviting him to retaliate. This is just a game, Uzumaki convinced himself, answering Sasuke more and more actively. Just a game, he mentally repeated, slowly dissolving in a whirlpool of new, somewhat strange, but pleasantly unusual sensations. Removed! Karen's joyful cry made the guys flinch. The next moment, they let go of each other and went to opposite corners of the room, trying to hide their ragged breathing from everyone and calm their wildly beating hearts.